morning, Amy.
Good morning, Cody. How's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, how are you?
Good, good. I'm a new studio set up,
I
so
see. Looking nice.
thank you. Figuring out the space, the acoustics, the lighting.
Yeah, no, it took me a little while. I don't know if I got it completely figured out yet. I keep on kind of moving around and what's easiest to set up and keep set up. So I think we'll stick with this for a while. We'll see.
I think this works great.
Well, we got a few things to dive into today. It was a big week in the sports business world. Everyone was down in Nashville for CAA's Congress of Sport. We can't afford $2,000 tickets yet, so we
No,
did not make it down. But been listening to all of the SBJ podcasts and all of the kind of the business news that's coming out. There's just so much coming out of it between baseball, Major League Baseball announcing an investment in women's softball, which is
amazing.
amazing. I think the commissioner really gave a nod to how much softball in the developmental, so the early stage youth sports has really played a role in their decision to invest in a professional league. So it'd be interesting. I have no idea what that means. There's already Athletes Unlimited doing their softball league, and does that mean an investment in Athletes Unlimited? Does that mean competing? I have no idea. And there was no tipping of the cards there. So that'll be interesting to see what develops with that, because there really isn't that thing right after, the kids are done playing in college. Like there's not that thing to jump into.
There is not yet.
And that is definitely a pain point. I can tell you from working with Boston College softball that we got the boys literally on the other side of the hallway, and that some of them they're getting drafted into MLB, and
Yeah,
they've got that upward mobility opportunity. And for the girls on the right side of the hallway, it's they're diving into their professional lives. What's after sport. So it'd be an interesting dynamic to see where that goes and how fandom reacts to that. We've definitely seen over the last couple years, in particular, college softball World Series getting better ratings than the baseball World Series. So there's
I was
definitely
just reading about that this morning too. Yeah,
yeah. No, so like there's something there. So it'll be interesting to see that unfold. There's just so much going on in the sports business side, because there's just so much money coming in, and that's
from everywhere, from every industry, from VC.
God, yeah, it's VCs, it's athletes themselves,
Hmm.
it's teams and leagues having their own investment arms and trying to figure out what the next thing is. NBA's trying to start a league in Europe, starting to see the blueprints of that. They're thinking right now a 16 team league, but 12 permanent, and then there's kind of like that notion of relegation. So that'd be interesting. The NBA obviously having such a big footprint here in the States, but I think the thing that was interesting, and this is where I'd love to dive in, the thing that Commissioner Silver said that was so interesting was that the product of the NBA is more than basketball. It is a cultural thing.
Absolutely.
It is, it's that link between culture and fashion
And music,
and
right?
music. Yeah, there's just in sport and video games. Like there's so many things. And I think one of the things that we've been talking about is that role that sport and culture plays in philanthropy, and that's the part where where we gravitate and we start to try to figure out where there's really cool opportunities. And the thing that I'm always reminded of is sneakers, and the role that sneakers play in this culture is obviously like pretty huge, and sneaker culture and sports are linked inextricably. There's been some really cool ways in which organizations and athletes have used sneakers for philanthropy. So I've been a big fan of Dornbacher Children's Hospital out in Portland, Oregon, and the collaboration they've done with Nike, where they have kids that are at the children's hospital work directly with Nike designers to design shoes.
So awesome.
And that in and of itself, just as an experience, is awesome. But the really amazing thing is that Nike then produces these things for sneakerheads. This is one of the best drops of the year, because it is what Nike does that I think is really impactful is they nothing's off limits. There's not
Mm.
a shoe silhouette that you can't use. So you'll see, Jordans and foam posits and even, just Blazers, like very traditional shoes, but you'll see the ones that are traditionally that Nike reserves like special collabs, and they've given these kids
It's
this
really great.
special collab kind of vibe. So, but they've done this for 20 years now. And part of the proceeds from the sale of the shoe goes back to the children's hospital, and they've raised millions of dollars doing this. So it's one of those things, and this is where, so it's a win-win, but it could be more, because one of the things that really pisses me off about this is that it is meant to be a fundraiser. It is meant to be building awareness for Dornbacher Children's Hospital. But what ends up happening, especially in the sneaker world, is, something drops, the bots and the resellers come in, snatch it all up, and then sell it for 2, 3, 4, 5x what the retail was. So a shoe that was retailing for $150 is now going for, $700, and none of that extra money is going to the children's hospital. And you're like, well, it's defeating the purpose.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I think other platforms, these resale platforms, right? Like you think about eBay or StockX or Poshmark even, get in on this collab, and a percentage of whatever that markup is on the resale should be going back there too.
Yeah, I'd love to broker that. Right. So
Right.
StockX, Nike, Dornbacher,
Give us a call.
Give us a call. But I know right now StockX and Nike are in some legal battles themselves. So that's, this is where I hate the fact that it's just an afterthought right now, that that project is not as philanthropic as it could be. There's these extra steps that could be taken that could do more. But like, Nike has done a ton though. I was actually looking through some of my sneakers last couple of days as we've
Your very small collection.
Yeah, just a couple over the years. But one of them that I love, and actually I brought these out yesterday, is Kevin Durant does a release every year. It's his Aunt Pearl release, and it's dedicated to his aunt who passed away from breast cancer. And so he does a shoe that is a reminder of her, and he always does like different interesting colorways with it, whether like it looked like the fabric of his aunt's couch, and that was like the fabric of the shoe. But it also has breast cancer awareness pink ribbon on it, right? So it's an awareness play. And you see a lot of athletes do that with their shoes. And that's, obviously that's great. And it's raising awareness, but them branding themselves about what they care about through their sneakers. And I think that's a powerful tool.
Agreed.
And there's so many. I think actually I was looking at the sneakers app this week, and I saw there was a release coming up that I forget the foundation. It was a skateboarding foundation.
That's right. I think we had it in our newsletter on Wednesday.
Maybe I actually pull it up real time. I am going on to the sneakers app on Nike. Not a sponsor of this show yet.
Another thing, give us a call.
But let me pull up so it's a dunk low that's coming out on May 3rd, and it's benefiting the College Skateboarding Educational Foundation.
Awesome.
That offers scholarships for skateboarders pursuing higher learning. So dope product, a great collab, highlighting yet like another organization. And I think like to me, sneakers are a platform, they're a vehicle, just an opportunity to use fashion to push a philanthropic message. But I think the really important part that I'm seeing is that athletes are branding themselves with their philanthropy and giving an opportunity for kids, for grown-ups to do the same around the issues that you care about. Every Dornbacher release, I grab one. And it's, to me, because I've got kids, like that's important to me. There's issues I think that you can find within the sneaker space.
For sure.
You find brands or athletes that you connect with. And I think that's just another powerful way in which you can, connect these two worlds of sport and philanthropy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing right now, there's going back to like the fashion, the apparel piece of things. There are so many clothing collabs with professional athletes, with NIL deals that aren't bringing in this third leg. There's the brand, right? There's the athlete or the team. And then the third piece, the third leg of that stool is the philanthropic aspect. I just saw this morning the PWHL, so they announced their expansion. Their first of 2 expansion teams for next season is going to be in Vancouver. Not a huge surprise. It makes perfect sense from when they did their tour. They had the largest attendance out in Vancouver, and they are sort of celebrating this with a collab with Lululemon. they're going to do the drop for the new Vancouver merch first and then expand it out to the rest of the league. But I was like, oh, okay, so where's this money going? Where are the proceeds going? And I
Yeah.
found nothing, right? There was another article this morning on some athletes there that are working with Coach, the, handbag leather brand. Didn't see anything there either about, is this connected to an organization? Is this going back into some youth sports initiative? So like there is really good momentum, but there's still, I think, a gap in the bigger space of bringing that third piece in.
Yeah, well, from what I've saw with My Cleats, My Cause within in the NFL, it's been driven by that momentum has been driven by players, and they had a fight for that. It wasn't something that was easily done. It's I think 2016 is when it started, and players were wearing these cleats. So the NFL has a policy that you have to wear team colored cleats, and they're strict about it. It's a very strict dress code. And when players violate that, kind of like the Jordan 1, band, it's they're going to have to pay a fine. And players were paying fines to wear these special cleats. So the league finally authorized, actually on the website, it's like allowed players in week 13 and 14 to do this
Crazy.
this special initiative. And it's pretty dope to see those weeks actually draw attention, and it's a big week kind of in the sneaker culture
Mm-hmm.
space too, because you're trying to see what's going to drop, but you don't see it. Those are mostly custom cleats. They're not mass release cleats like the like a Dornbacher or like what you're talking about with Lululemon and the expansion team out in Vancouver. Like there's an opportunity to use the moment.
Well, yeah.
And with the NFL players, like they push for it. This went through the Players Association really pushing to get this to happen, because these dudes were, they're getting hit with like 6,000 fines for putting on the wrong, not, I wouldn't say the wrong cleats, but
Not the wrong.
the cleats that don't abide by the league rules. So I think the players wanted this, but the league also saw that fans wanted to see it, and I think that's the third stool you're talking about. The leagues have to be shown first that there is a desire within the fan base to see these
Mm-hmm.
players as more than athletes. And that's why we're here, right? That's what
Yeah.
we're trying to
Yeah.
amplify, is these guys and girls are more than athletes, right? They happen to be remarkable athletes, but they also have this platform to do good. And whether it's sneakers or apparel or any type of fashion, there is an opportunity to do more. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I can see the PWHL quickly jumping on something.
I think so too. I mean, they do so much with their in-game initiatives. Even with the Vancouver announcement, they actually had a 9-year-old make the announcement because they wanted to bring the community youth
Uh,
into,
That's pretty
right?
sweet.
How cool is that? So, I mean, like I feel like they are maybe one of the closest leagues to getting there, but like I want to give them a little bit of a nudge.
Yeah, I think these emerging leagues too, and in particular the emerging women's sports leagues, are using community activation and community engagement in such a better way, a more I guess just authentic way.
Hmm.
And they're focusing in on, because they got the challenge, they have to build fandom.
They need the community.
Yeah, they need the community. And so I had the opportunity to meet Olivia Zafudo, who plays for the Boston Fleet. She's actually going to be one of our first guests on Legacy Lounge.
Love
So
it, love it.
shout out, Olivia. Thank you for doing that. And I met her at a Learn to Skate thing with my
Yeah,
daughter, right?
that's
And
so
it was,
great.
probably 100 little girls, learning to skate. And then there was a couple of Boston Fleet players out there, weaving in and out and having fun with them. And my daughter literally never had done anything in hockey before, and now she's fallen in love with it.
Amazing.
Those are the moments that these emerging leagues, and as I'm saying this, like particularly the women's leagues, are building that kind of bond. And we're gonna go see them play on tomorrow, on Saturday.
So cool.
But ironically, my daughter, she had a birthday party, so I'm taking my son, and my son's just as excited. And to me, that's just as important. My daughter,
Yeah.
like discovering this new sport of hockey is great, but my son being older, my son's 13, and being able for him to see that parity, and not recognizing that like the PWHL is just getting started. He just looks at it as professional hockey, and that that to me is that's the win too. It's not just about the empowerment and the inclusion of little girls. It's teaching these little boys too that
Agreed.
this parody's there. So I'm excited to go do that. I'm excited to get Livia
Yes.
onto the show and get a chance to talk to her about the legacy that she's building on and off the ice, and maybe some of these fashion brands start to weave together
I hope
with.
so. Yeah, there's so much room.
There really is.
And there's demand for it too, right? Fans want this. They want the merch, they want the collabs, and it's just like the extra cherry on top that's going to get them to buy more, which is great for everybody if we can get these organization community pieces in there with the merch drops.
Well, and I feel like every league is starting to lean into this more, that intersection of the culture, fashion with their sport. Like we have the tunnel fits. That's more on my Instagram than actually the
Yes.
games are now.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, this person was wearing this person was
Mm-hmm.
wearing that. So there's these opportunities to elevate something. And so I'm thinking of brands like Able Made, a great brand that is already built into this intersection of sports and philanthropy. So it's this brand that exists to fund their nonprofit. And it's a nonprofit about soccer inclusion
Love it.
and getting, more kids able to play soccer. But they're selling these beautiful high-end, high-fashion, pieces to be able to fund that. And what they're seeing, what they've been able to do really, really well, is to get into those, the runway fits, right? As players are walking into the stadium, you'll see an Able-made shirt or Able-made hat or whatever. So they're already playing in this world. So there are people here that I think are starting to do this and starting to recognize that there is that opportunity to use the platform that these players have, and something that we all are paying attention to. And it's not just the
We
2
are.
hours for the game anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see where this goes. And if there's a little part of it that we can help influence, I'm down for that too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think just keep on telling these stories that they're out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, maybe we can tackle this just, on social too, where we just can start highlighting some of these brands that are out there that, you can be a consumer and be a citizen at the same time, and go and do something good just by what you're buying, especially, those ones that have a direct connection to philanthropy. Buying this does X. Those are
Yes.
the ones that are doing it the best. And then, folks like Coach that have these huge platforms and have huge audience, there is an opportunity. It's not about putting pressure on them. It's more about just showing them the opportunity. And I think that's part of the conversation that I think I hope what we're championing is.
Same.
I don't want anyone to feel bad that they're not doing anything. I just
No.
want to show the opportunity exists to do something.
There is another door if you want to open it and explore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's, coming from our old world and kind of like the nonprofit marketing world, there's that little bit of that like shaming people, and there's a little bit of that you make people feel bad, and that's what gets them to take action. I'm not about
Yeah.
that.
That's not my favorite.
Yeah, I'm about like let's show that there's some cool stuff that can be done, and it could be win-win-win-win.
Yes.
Everyone can win. We don't gotta put people down to lift people up. So. Well, so moving in that vein, moving on to a new topic, we've been seeing a lot in the last couple of weeks, but this has definitely been going on longer. We covered it through our downloads on the website, that's thewinwin.com. The role that team ownership and franchises and teams have been playing within their local community. You've got a really fun one down in your neck of the woods in Atlanta with the Braves.
Yeah. They so the Brave Stadium, Truist Park, has actually the first office at MediaCause, where you and I worked, was at the Brave Stadium when it first opened back in what I want to say like 2018. So they just did a revamp.
What's the Battery, right?
At the Battery.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean,
It's beautiful.
Sidebar, they're just printing cash over there. They've figured out a very good
They did.
balance of mixed use that serves the community, and they're making a lot of money off of it, which obviously as the economic development implications are great, but it also puts more money into the team that can do the cool stuff that you're about to talk about.
Yes. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and so the park I think opened, it was 2017, 2018-ish. And they just did a bit of an overhaul on some of the facilities inside. And one of the things they did was create this new food concession area called Outfield Market. And they kind of designed it to be a bit like a food hall. It's got all these local food stalls in it. So they're bringing in like flavors of Atlanta, right? Or flavors around Cobb, which is the county that it's in. And one of those stalls, though, is for this nonprofit org called the Giving Kitchen. It's an Atlanta-based org. It is a national organization, though, and it is support and financial aid, essentially, for food service workers who are experiencing financial difficulty, who may not be able to work because of medical issues for themselves or their family. They basically are the safety net for a lot of restaurant and food service workers throughout the country. So they gave the Giving Kitchen a stall at this Outfield Market, and the Giving Kitchen is just going to be bringing in different local chefs from around the area to be showcasing different dishes every few weeks, rotating menu, seasonal foods, local foods, with proceeds going back to the Giving Kitchen. And the thing I love about this is it's not like this one-time thing where, hey, banner day, we're featuring them. They've got a permanent stall there. They're going to be there throughout the whole season. They're going to have fans coming back and keep coming back and really getting to know what this org is and what they're about, and like making it not just a purposeful choice because the food's amazing, but also because they really believe in what they're doing for the community. And that's like one of the first times that I've seen this kind of integration in a stadium setting, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
And to your point, so awesome because it is a permanent thing. That's the thing that is so impactful, is that they recognize that for philanthropy to work, it has to be sustained.
Yeah.
And there has to be a long-term scalable project plan for it to work. And I think it would always be the thing that would annoy me. It's like the flash in the pan, like flashy thing. And then it's like, well, what's happening next?
What next?
Yeah. So awesome. Shout out Braves for doing that. That's amazing. Another one that I came across was Monumental Sports. So down in DC, I've had a lot of engagement with them, being a GW student right now in the sports philanthropy program. They do so much for the city of DC. And one of the things that Monumental Sports did over spring break, while it was spring break for the kids in DC, they opened up RFK Stadium and did like an RFK Day of Play. And it was all the Monumental Sports, the Capitals and the Wizards, the Mystic. They, had games and food and events, both for the kids and for their parents. So everyone was entertained, right?
Yeah.
But it was the thing that I really loved about this event, and this goes back to this point of creating long-term plans for philanthropy, is when Arena was getting redone, and Arena's right downtown in DC, when it was getting redone, part of the renovation kind of contract was that they built in to the contract these moments in which Monumental had to provide some community benefit. Credit to Monumental, they threw themselves all the way in. They're like, yes, like they were excited about it, right? I think sometimes business can get the bad rap where it's like, oh, they're just doing it because it's good for business. Well, it's like, yeah, duh, it's good for business, but
it's an and, right?
Yeah, it's an and. Like you can have both. It's a win-win. Like you can do good by your community and make money because those are your fans. Anyways, those are the ones that are going to be buying hot dogs and buying season tickets. So it was one of those things where like I get really excited about these types of deals because they're intentional.
Yeah.
And they are focused on how can we uplift our community, because we know for the next 20, 30 years, however long that ownership group's in place, they're giving back into the community and it's codified. And there's a legal framework around it. And that to me, that's when the dope stuff happens, is because also you can plan for it, right?
Yeah.
You could pull off cooler things, more impactful things, because you've got the resources allocated for it. You've got the right stakeholders involved yourself to make something cool happen. And you've got the momentum of the ownership team behind it in the city and the council and all that stuff. So you've got all this momentum that can just make it happen. And what is it? A day at RFK Stadium at a time period when parents really need it because their kids are out of school, and it's like trying to find stuff for your kids to do on school vacation week. It's not the
It's
easiest
impossible.
thing. So that's awesome. So I love seeing those stories.
Same.
The Braves and Monumental, good work on doing stuff for your community.
Yeah. The one common thread between the two of those that I also think makes a huge difference is the element of place, right? They have physical space to be able to activate these things, and that adds to that sense of permanence.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you were saying about the ability to plan long term. Like, they don't need to think about what facility are we going to hold this event at, or how do we pull this off? What staff are we going to use? There's an infrastructure in place that makes it so much easier to activate these kind of things, that the community gets in the groove of knowing this is where this stuff happens. This becomes part of the fabric of, our family always goes to these things, and it just becomes an ingrained part of what they do. And I think that's kind of beautiful too.
I think about that Hannah Waddington's character in Ted Lasso, the owner, and I think about that conversation she had when on the Akufu Super League episode where she was sitting around and she was the only female owner.
I remember that one.
Right. And she's sitting around with all these old white guys. And basically she's like, are you kidding me? Like, we may be the owners, but we're simply the stewards of these teams. These teams mean more to the community than they mean to us. They are revenue streams for us, but for these, the fans, they're so much more. And I think, what the Braves are doing, what Monumental Sports is doing is really brings that to life. That these teams are more than just things we watch on television. They can be more and they mean more.
They become generational connectors for a lot of families.
Well, that was another good week for this connection of sports and philanthropy. There's so many of these stories out there. Amy and I are going to continue bringing these to you, but bring them to us. If there are stories out there that you hear about or see or come across in any way, and you think it deserves some more attention, please shoot it over to us. You can do this directly in the comment thread on this video. You can reach out to us if you're on LinkedIn. We've got our LinkedIn page over there, in which Amy and I, we monitor in real time. So if there's, if you got a question or anything, shoot it over there, or join our newsletter over at that'sthewinwin.com. We respond back to any emails that we get, but what we're really looking for are those stories that aren't in the mainstream media, that you're not going to find on, ESPN.com. Like, what are those great stories that teams, players, communities are doing that are bringing some good into this world through the platform of sports?
We know there are so many more out there than the two of us are able to find right now. So yeah, if there's things happening in your community or things you hear about, please let us know.
All right, Amy, this is a good show. We'll see you guys next week.
Good show. All right. Have a good weekend.